Good afternoon. Welcome to Good Guy Sports. I'm Jackson Gerke, alongside our co-host BL Lomberger, Blake Gerke, and Mike Roby. I am Jackson Gerke, and we will talk about for this week. We are going to discuss the Premier League, which is very exciting. We will also talk about some baseball. That's a little later in the show, but right now we are going to recap the Olympic Games. From our biggest takeaway from the from this edition of the Paris Summer Games. We are going to start off with the closing from the biggest takeaways from the closing ceremonies. So my reaction to it is that they put on a great show. I think that Katie Ledecky and among many other U.S. athletes were the flag bearer, followed by the parade of athletes, and then once the show just was right underway, there was just a scene of people and different stunts and just acrobatics and flying man and just trans painted all over the stadium for many closing ceremonies. But really, what stood out to me from past closing ceremonies, unlike what this one did, is that they had a live concert and there was like crowd surfing, by one of the many athletes, and they also had they also had the cool robotic technical feel that I also haven't really seen from many ceremonies that I've watched. So to me that's what stood out. But what really stood out was Tom Cruise coming down from the stadium and just really and watching it, and I thought to myself, that looked pretty cool, flying down from the stadium on a cliffhanger, jumping on a motorcycle and taking the Olympic flag from Paris to LA. I thought that was some like pretty cool stuff, like jumping off the plane into the ground at LA and just decorating from Hollywood to colors. I thought that was pretty cool. What really stood out, but man, and then you had the mayor. Before that, you had the mayor of the LA with the LA flag Hanover, which to me, when I first saw and heard about when of that Olympic announcement by Thomas Bach and for the mayor of LA, just really to me got the fans more exciting, because especially for us US that live here in America as US citizens, which to me, I feel like to me that we should be more excited about for the games heading into Los Angeles 4 years from now, which is where we're going to have to wait for. But to me, really, whenever they made that announcement of the Olympic Games returning back to the United States for the first time since the Atlanta Games back in '96, you think about it. LA has hosted the games in 32 and 84. The last time they hosted the games there. I think that it'll have a different, similar feel, but I think it would be bigger and better than ever before for when the venues are hosting there. And then to your point, to your point, Mike, before we got on air earlier about the new sports coming to the games in LA for 28. One of them I can tell you is softball, baseball, and cricket. And this one I don't.
All the stick sports.
Right. Exactly. And this one I didn't see coming. Nobody even thought it was going to be a Olympic sport, but it is lacrosse. That's right, lacrosse, the former sport that I used to play in high school. That that I played with my teammates a long time ago, that nobody thought it was a Olympic sport until now. It officially is.
Jax,
It'll
Jax,
be
state
a Olympic
champion,
sport,
baby.
and that's great. That's right, Blake, and that's crazy because lacrosse, nobody thought it was going to be Olympic sport, but you know what? The Olympic Committee and their sports just thought, you know what? Why don't we try something different and just try to see something new and different and make it more fun for the fans and more excitement. And they chose lacrosse, and that's and 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 that's what they did. And lacrosse officially a Olympic sport. But sadly, the other sports that are not bringing back for the games in LA, that will not return for the games in LA 4 years from now is, I hate to say it, but they're discontinuing it, break dancing. Yeah. Now look, when I
They're not.
now,
They're not going to bring it back. They've already just
no, they're
decided not
not.
to.
They're
Yep,
not. They're
they're
not. It's
Short
official.
leash, huh?
canceling
They
it.
are not.
Yeah,
They are
Yikes.
not.
no
They
more ray gun.
Yeah, no, they are not bringing back break. It's official. They
Rest
are
in
not.
peace.
They are not bringing it back to the games in LA. Which to me, I didn't think it was a sport, but many people think it is. But to me, I think it's not a sport because if you think
Definitely
about
brought a lot of interest to the games.
if you think about it, right,
Social media
right,
interest.
right. But if you think about it, it's actually just a bunch of random people dancing on the streets in New York City, representing the
That's a bit harsh. That's a
borough
bit
of
harsh. But
NYC. That's what breakdancing reminds me of. Like,
well, you know what? I'd rather they take a swing on something like breakdancing and have it fail versus like never try to add stuff. Because I mean, you're gonna add some stuff and it's not gonna work. You're gonna add some stuff and it might work. So ultimately, you got to take a swing, right?
right. If you think about it, whenever I think of like breakdancing, I think of like people just doing like doing like a rap battle, going right at it like some like dance competition. It makes it more like a, I don't know, just like a dance show on MTV or something like that, which actually reminds me of, which is why to me it's not a sport. Um, and you also happen to see that in places like the subway and in NYC, up in New York or in Manhattan or even in the Bronx or Queens or in Long Island or the boroughs of New York, which is where it was founded. And to me, when I knew that breakdancing didn't turn out well as a sport, and I said to myself, well, you know what? They thought they thought it was right and to be true. And you know what? The experts got it right, and they never did, and that's why it never became a sport.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
what do you think of baseball being back?
Oh, I think it's great. Both baseball and softball back in the game. I doubt if any of the MLB players will be in it, but maybe some of the all stars in the minor leagues will be in the game.
For sure. And you have to figure a lot of Latin American countries would have a pretty good chance, even if they did have to field
Well, yeah, and
not professionals, right?
the Japanese and the Koreans, as well as the Cubans, will have tremendous teams coming in.
Certainly, yeah. And I could see a scenario where, because there's not there, obviously you have the World Baseball Classic, but it's still not like
Yeah.
a top tier competition. So I
Mhm.
could see a reality where the fact that it's in America, maybe
Yeah.
if they do allow professionals, maybe you would see some big names in there. Just, I guess if it's going to be over the summer in 2028, theoretically it might have to not play during the MLB season. So that
Mhm.
could obviously cause some issues. But we've seen it in the past where NHL players have taken a break from their season to do
Yeah.
Olympics, and then I think they reversed that in the most recent Olympics. Maybe they've
Mhm.
kind of gone back and forth from it. But the fact that it's in the US, I think ultimately will mean a lot more professional athletes from bigger sports that are already in the US will have more of an incentive or less of a barrier maybe to actually
Yeah.
compete in Olympics, because it's a lot easier sell to say just go to LA for a couple weeks, go collect yourself a medal, and then
Yeah.
take a bird back home to to DC. So I would expect we'll see some big names in LA for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I'm interested in seeing the flag football. I think that'd be a lot of
Oh,
fun.
that's right. I almost forgot about that. Yes. I always ask myself about that. Do you unlike for to your point about MLB players, will there be any NFL players participating in that instead of going to like let's say their mandatory NFL training camp?
Hmm. You know, I doubt it, just because I think flag football is such a different game than the tackle football. But I think it's gonna be fun to watch. The other sport that I really was intrigued with was 7-on-7 rugby. That looked awesome. Yeah, particularly the women's game. To me that was one of the highlights of the Paris Olympics.
I totally agree. That will definitely be one to remembered in the history books. For many years of my lifetime, I'll definitely remember that for sure.
Yeah.
And and one of the highlights for me for to highlight from these games for me a couple of things. We on Marchand doing the uh, uh, up and down from the pool like getting the crowd so hyped up doing that
Hmm.
noise,
Yeah.
getting the crowd right into it. The French were just all over it, and then of course Katie Ledecky being the most being the most the greatest female women's swimmer of all time, and then who also, by the way, is a local DC resident, Bethesda, Maryland high school native,
Hmm.
right up the road from where Uncle Mike is.
Yeah.
And then
I
and
t
then and then also there's this, and then they also the other highlight is of course, yeah, the highs and lows of Noah Wiles. We all know about the COVID situation, like we talked about a few weeks ago, but bringing back the medal for Alexandria for the first time, you got to, I mean, having a watch party there, you got to, yeah, you got to feel proud and how he worked hard for this moment for that he dreamed of, despite all that. You really just got to feel great, feel great, feel great on this on this man of how he deserved it, and he went for a lot, but I'm glad he got it done. And
uh,
but also there just happened to be this young high schooler that was on the men's US track and field team on who ran on track. There was this guy I believe who's still in high school and has to go back for like a few weeks, and
16 years old.
yeah, that's right. Bowie High School, Maryland native, I believe. So
Another one from the DC metropolitan area.
which tells me that 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 we don't have many U.S. athletes here in Wilmington, but Uncle Mike does because he's surrounded by many of them. But yes, but yes, you guys do know how to. You guys do have a great recruitment and produce many U.S. Olympic
Yeah.
athletes in your area, and yeah, and they just turned out
It,
so well, and I'm just very grateful of.
it's got to be the Chesapeake Blue Crabs.
Yes, yes.
I tell you, Jack, before we get off, I got to give another shout out to Femke Bol from the pole from the Netherlands in the women's 4x4 relay. I mean, the U.S. team was so far out, nobody was going to catch them, but
Mm,
she came out of nowhere and got silver for the Netherlands. That was the second race where she ran the last leg in the she was the one that caught the Americans in the 4x4 mixed relay.
mm,
Yeah. Also a
crazy.
great race as well. Yeah.
And a non-athletic shout out is to Peacock. I think streaming finally came to life. They did a tremendous job streaming the Olympics. In fact, Aunt Lori and I were at Nationals Park in the picnic area streaming the women's basketball final while we were waiting for the game to start. Just sitting there on my iPhone, watching the end of that game. Boy, that was a tremendous game.
Yeah. Yeah, those US women's and men's national team just somehow continue to dominate and find ways to win in the gold medal game.
Yeah.
Ever since the days of the 92 Barcelona games. They have been on a streak ever since, Mike. To answer your question, and yes, yes, yes. One of the things, also one of the local athletes who are from the area, none other than Kevin Durant from Prince George's County High School up in Maryland, not far from you, who I believe has won some awards and accomplished himself as by far one of the greatest basketball players for Team USA. And yeah, Kevin Durant just really just really continues to find ways to win. But yes, 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 you got to feel proud for your local athletes, especially for Kevin Durant, who's from your area that you're from, not far from you. But that's not my main highlight. What my main highlight is that Stephen Curry, yes, the big,
Oh yeah.
yes, Stephen Curry, yeah, Stephen Curry, those making those big time clutch shots, the biggest game of his life, right there, just making those buckets and those shots when the game was on the line, and just and then right after he made like the last bucket of the game, the announcers were like, night, 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 night. And they just put the French team to bed. That's what they did. Yep. And they sealed it. And that's just what they did. And just yeah, the US women's and men's national team just keep on rolling and finding ways to win.
Yeah, it's going to be tough in LA. I mean, the rest of the world is getting better at basketball. The women's game came down to inches. That last shot, the French woman was on the line, and it was a 2-pointer instead of a 3-pointer. Had it been a 3-pointer, it would have sent the game into overtime.
Mm. Yeah,
So
instead it was a 2-pointer last I checked. So
yeah, it was a 2-pointer, and the US won by 1 point. And so that was a nail biter. You got to tip your cap to the both the French women's and men's team in basketball. They played tremendous.
Right. And the fact that you played in front of a home crowd and the French were like,
Totally, yeah.
oh wow, you feel like this stadium was about to explode or erupt. They were like really into it.
Yeah, no, there's no shame in a silver medal. They can definitely keep their heads held high for sure. A good showing from the home nation there.
Just wait till we get the Hollywood Olympics in 2028.
Well, exactly. It's exactly, and you got to feel hyped and excited, and the vibe for what LA is going to look like, and for us Americans here living in this country, thinking about of how you think the travel's really not gonna really be as bad as like compared to going overseas in Europe or Asia or even Africa or even South America, which I feel like for many Americans, except for us, I mean, other than us, for any Americans, for their travel, just might make it manageable depending on what time zone you're coming from, which I think makes it more much of an easyable travel for us Americans, which I gotta say, the only thing I would worry about it is the LA traffic, but what do you expect? That's why you expect to take cabs and Uber or Lyft to avoid all that, for driving yourself over there, and just really just use public transportation like the LA mayor said on one of those interviews that I saw. But you're right, LA, there's definitely lots to be excited about, and I really hope that at one point 4 years from now, depending on where we're going to be, I hope that we're invited there by as volunteers, or who knows, maybe we can catch a rugby match there with Mary Ellen at SoFi Stadium, which is where I think they're going to be playing their matches there. But yeah, lots to be excited and forward to for the for for uh for the LA games 4 years from now. You think about it, it's a sports town. They are very passionate with their sports. I mean, you think about
I
gymnastics.
thought it was a movie town.
Well, no, no. Well, it's actually a combination of both. So
Ah, okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
you got the Lakers. They're going to be turning it into gymnastics for the men's and women's. SoFi Stadium, I think, is going to be turned into a pool, which is going to be really cool to watch, and it's going to make it's going to make the fans and some even more exciting and more special and fun to watch. They want to create things a bigger, better way for the LA mayor and for the city council over there. Want to make the they're I mean, you think about it, Lucas Oil Stadium um did something like that at the US Olympic trials from their version of a pool, but it'll be similar to that, but a lot bigger than what many people think. So that should be more exciting.
And you got the Los Angeles Coliseum and the Rose Bowl for some of the field games, like soccer.
Yes,
They've
yeah,
played World Cup soccer in the Rose Bowl.
yes, and they also played the 2006 national championship game there between the Classic of Oklahoma. I mean, sorry, Texas and USC. That should yes, and they've hosted the Super Bowl one there between the Chiefs and the Packers, and yes, they hosted a couple of Olympic games there. It is a historic landmark of all the U.S. stadiums to visit, and other than the Rose Bowl game there in Pasadena, but that's really for a different sport. But yeah, there's definitely lots of excitement for the surfing. And I mean, look, they had a concert at Venus Beach during the ceremony, which I thought was pretty cool with performances by Billie Eilish, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Snoop Dogg. I thought it was pretty cool and crazy. We were definitely into it. Right when we were watching it on TV together, I thought it was pretty cool and amazing. And it was yeah, it was just great stuff. But I think LA is really going to really be really excited about and just really enjoy what the store what has to offer for the games for the return back to the United States.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
would agree.
Looking
That's
forward
a
to it.
great way to wrap up the Olympics, Jack.
Last word before we move on. Blake, do you have any thoughts on the Olympic Games returning to America?
I think it's going to be great, Jack. I didn't know I didn't know SoFi was going to be the swimming venue. What was the capacity this year in France? 20,000, 30,000
It
for
was
the
like
swim?
25,000.
And what's SoFi, Jack? What's the capacity of SoFi?
SoFi.
60, 70?
Capacity. Capacity of SoFi Stadium. So
70,000.
yeah, 70,000 at least. 70,000. But if you think about it, but overall capacity for it, for football games, it gets up to at least 10,000 people for concerts and other events, unlike the Olympic Games that are going to be played there in about 4 years' time. But that's really for like football games and concerts and such. But that's really to answer your question, that's usually the capacity that really just holds up for events like that.
Well, Jack, I'll tell you what, and you and guys and Mike kind of hit it on it. But listen, I'm gonna you ready for my sleeper that's gonna win the softball? It's gonna win softball 2028. You ready?
Let's hear it.
Take $1 out of your bank accounts and put it on Mexico's women's softball team.
Ooh, okay.
Right.
We're going
Ready?
with a sleeper of the Mexican
I'll put a few.
National softball team.
I'll put a few pesos on it.
Oh, Blake, that's so good. And I'm gonna tell you why. Mexico softball coach, this kind of sad. He cut the entire team, looked at all the college rosters in the United States for the women's softball teams. And if they had a Spanish last name, he contacted them and asked them if their grandma or if their mother, dad, grandmother was born in Mexico. And if they were, would they play for the Mexico Olympic softball team? So he had a stacked roster when he did this, I guess would have been in 2020. They did well, but it was super last minute. So just wait. They'll have a star-studded cast of all the girls that aren't playing for the U.S. team. They'll have almost anybody they want. So watch out. That's free right there, Jack.
Okay, we'll keep an eye out for that.
We'll
Won't we?
definitely follow it, and we'll definitely definitely will be something to watch for the games in 2024. We'll definitely be following it for sure. Like you said, Blake, definitely have our eyes on it.
And Mike, great. I did not go unnoticed that you talked about ray gun. The amount of time I've spent reading about ray gun is staggering. And I just read some more stuff today that came out. Did you read the latest on ray gun?
I didn't read it today.
About how she might be in some heat over kind of mismanaging the people that were supposed to get into the breakdancing from Australia, that she maybe like kind of slid in and didn't let other people compete and challenge her for the position.
Wow.
I like the ray gun story. So didn't anyone notice if you said that too?
Some breakdancing controversy.
Yeah.
A little bit, which, hey, you know what? That's what you want. There's no such thing as bad publicity, right?
Yeah.
I think that's probably true for a lot of governing bodies, but I feel like the Olympic Committee, they like to play by the rules and they don't like having unwanted attention. So I personally hope they would have kept it and kind of like tried to build on it. And like it's obviously good for social media clips and stuff like that, but I guess the IOC thought people are kind of like making fun of and laughing at this a little bit, so we're gonna scrap it. So I'm a bit upset about that. But ultimately, if we're gonna bring back in like baseball and cricket, something probably has to go to even it out. They, so.
Well, I like the keeping it fresh. They got to, keep the young people, just for everybody, and just keeping it fresh. If they played the same thing all the time, but that's just me. I had no problem with it.
Fun fact, what's the fastest miles per hour event of all the Olympic events? Who moved the fastest out of all the Olympic events? We may have touched on this last week. I forgot. Do you guys know?
It's got to be yachting, sailing.
No. You're close. You're close.
Rowing.
Kite surfing. 60 miles an hour. 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, I forgot that was even in there in the Olympics.
I did too. You didn't hear about it much.
Yeah, wow. It's not under the radar for sure. Yeah,
that would be cool to watch.
Did they pull the pentathlon where you there was like an old Olympic pentathlon where you would ride a horse? It was the wildest event. I remember seeing the Olympics maybe in Tokyo. You would ride a horse, you would get off, you would swim, jump in the pool, swim down and back or a couple of laps, then you would shoot a gun, somehow get back on your horse, ride around. In every lap you would like jump in the pool, shoot a gun, get back. Did you guys see this in like Tokyo? And I don't remember seeing anything about it in Paris.
I vaguely remember I was reading something where they changed one of the events in that.
Okay.
So they kept the event, but they changed one of the, I can't remember what they changed. It might have been with the horses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I remember seeing some clips from the pentathlon, and I know the decathlon definitely doesn't have that because that's track stuff. But yeah, no, I think they might have dropped that. So there was some, I guess the horse stuff was the dressage, I guess, was the big one. Very French sport, so it makes sense they would try to prop that one up. So I did see a little bit of that one.
Yeah, to your point, Mike, that I want to make a correction on. I'm sorry. His name is Quincy Wilson. He is by far the youngest U.S. men's track team, by far on the team ever as a 16-year-old, like you said. And he's still in high school, which
Hmm.
I don't even know, like how does this happen? I think it might, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like they should never let this happen, but it does. Something tells me they might have name, image, and likeness, or the transfer portal. Well, I feel like we're talking about that nowadays, but Mike, why in the world do we have a 16-year-old competing in the Olympic Games, which is so crazy and unheard of? And he is a local just down the road from you. I found out he is not he does not go to high school in Bowie, Maryland. He is from the Bullis School in Potomac, Maryland. So just down the road from you, like I said earlier. But that's just who he is and where he came from. And yeah, we're just living in a world with a 16-year-old in track and field, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's kind of a phenom, and he won. He received the gold medal for the men's 4x4 because he competed in one of the preliminary rounds. He was not in the final, but he ran one of the legs in the preliminary, and so he was awarded a gold medal for that. I think he ran this. I think he ran the second runner in one of the prelims. But they wanted to. He was good enough, and they wanted to give him some experience and additional training. So kudos to him for being there. Just watch, remember his name because he'll be in L.A.
Yeah. Bigger and better things have yet to come for him, and I think to your point, and I think to your point, Mike, he'll definitely become a star in the future. No question about it. He'll definitely be right up there among Noah Wiles and the rest of the. Maybe he'll be right there in the footsteps of Sha'Carri Richardson and Noah Wiles and Quincy Hall and those guys. I think, yeah. I'm sure you'll definitely be
Yeah.
watching out for him. He'll definitely he'll definitely be up there for the great athletes. Maybe not near at the highest level as Usain Bolt was, but he'll be right up there for sure. No no question about it.
Yeah. Maybe even the Falcons will get him.
I
They could
don't
use
know
him.
about that.
They could use him. That's for sure.
But I do know that there
Take
was
one of those horses too.
right, of course. But oh well, I don't know about that. But what I do know is that you have had is that one of the track and field stars from Team USA, I believe, is one of the wives that her husband plays for one of the NFL teams, other than Simone Biles and Jordan Chiles for the Bears, for Jordan Love for the Bears. But that's just a different athlete. But there was some like athlete that played for the NFL team that her wife just played for the track and field. But I forget who that name is. That's just something that I had this watched and really learned about right when I was watching the Olympics, the Olympic coverage for about a few weeks during my time. That's just something that I've learned. But I forget the name. That name. That's just what I've learned from my biggest takeaway from the Olympic Games.
You ready
And
to talk local?
and also what stood out for the Olympic Games for Team USA before we move on to our next subject is that in surfing we had a surfer from Team USA that's named Caroline, not our Caroline, but a different Caroline Marks. She is from Melbourne, Florida, but resides in, like my sister, she resides in California. She currently lives in Sacramento. I think she has a job over there, but she just won a gold medal in the women's final in surfing over in the island of Tahiti, which which my biggest takeaway is that they play is that it's not even in its own country. They're like this. It's not even near Paris or the country of France. Like, and when I think of and when I and you know for why the Olympic Games had the serving competition was all the way in Tahiti and not in Paris or in the country of France. Like, why would they want to put it in like in Tahiti in the small island surrounded by a bunch of palm trees and nature compared to like doing it offshore in the country of France, which I highly doubted they should have done, but they didn't, and they just chose Tahiti, which to me is just 1,000 miles away offshore, and I just didn't think it was the right idea. But I'm glad they got it done. It's over with, and hopefully with the games now back to its back on U.S. soil in LA. Hopefully they can do the competition over in Surf City, USA, and Huntington Beach, which I feel like they should be hosting it there for hosting it there should be the host site just because of how it's in California and maybe it's near LA. That's where I think they should be doing the competition at for that location. Do you have any thoughts you'd like to add before we move on to that?
I think they
Yeah.
have plenty of options for surfing in California versus France, so they're not going to have to fly them out to an island. I think so.
Yeah.
Surfing makes
The
more
Jaws,
sense
man.
in countries.
They got a famous wave called Jaws out there. But the weird thing about Jaws is it's like I think like a half mile or maybe a mile off the beach. So it's kind of weird. You got to get there via boat. And once you're done with the wave, it's not like you can just swim to shore. It's a funky offshore break. So surely they'll go surf Jaws. It's world famous.
But yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
You guys ever heard of Jaws?
I've heard of that. I think in the surfing stuff I've seen, yeah, I've heard
It's either
mention of that.
Mavericks or Jaws. I can't remember which one it is. One of the
Something
two.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, we're aware.
Sorry, Jack. Jack, you're on fire today. I'm telling you what, you are on
Get 'em.
fire today.
I always am piped and fired up. I always got something to say on our show. That's why I break it all down and got it all covered for our audience.
Jackson, real quick, we got a special guest on the show today. Okay, are you ready? Sorry I hit you with this last second.
Oh, it's okay.
It's my girlfriend. Her name is Paige. Here she is. So you can ask her any question you're ready for. Okay.
Hi, Paige. I'm Jackson from Good Guy Sports. Great to be with you. So I got to ask you, did you play any sports growing up? And if you did, which one was it?
Does cheerleading and gymnast count?
Definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess
definitely.
I guess so.
Yeah, gymnasts was a great sport in the
Questionable,
Olympics.
right?
Yeah, no, that's a great sport, right?
So you did cheerleading. Well, I
And
can
Blake is gonna
tell you
teach
that
me how to-
cheerleading is just a bunch of like girls just doing a bunch of rehearsals and practices and dances for like any like basketball and football event. That's just really what they do whenever I watch cheerleading at sporting events.
Yeah, it's a big
That's
part of the game day
exactly right.
experience. Absolutely.
I mean, I don't really have nothing to add, but that's really all what they do. So,
What's our what's our next topic, Jack?
all right. So before we move, all right. So just to recap, the U.S. Has tied China for the most gold medals, but have lead the overall standings in total medal count. Just so that everyone in your audience knows that Team USA still is on top, but tied with China with 44 overall, at least 40 in that range. But that's where things are. That's where things are with the for the Olympics, and that's where and that's all I got to say for how things wrapped up for how Team USA and the Olympics for the medal count stands as of now, right when the game's wrapped up. Now let's move on now and we take a turn and now talk Premier League soccer, which is where you are standing right now virtually. You're not there for real, but you're just
Finally, I've been dying to give these predictions,
I
man.
know. Finally, we can break it all down and talk Premier League preview. So here's what we got. Our first game that we got is Man United and Fulham, live from the UK. This will be some kind of match to watch. That I know that you're looking for. That should be some game. That'll be live from Old Trafford Stadium, Old Trafford, which I believe is one of the most historic, most historic stadiums in all of European, I mean, soccer over there in the UK. Then followed by West Ham and Aston Villa from London Stadium, and then you wrap it all up on Sunday. You finish it off and tap it off with the defending champion Manchester City from Stamford Bridge against Chelsea. That's going to be a stacked, fun weekend Premier League matchup to watch, Blake. And then you think about it, the headlines that I've got for you is, will Manchester City claim its fifth consecutive Premier League title? And if they do, you think about it, what I compare them with is the New England Patriots and Kansas City Chiefs in NFL football.
Right.
Also,
Dynasty.
and I can also add the New York Yankees in that same category and list. Is what I think about Manchester City. They're in that same category. And then you have Liverpool with their with the end of the era of post Cup, and begins with their new manager with Aaron Slot. And then you have Arsenal just coming up really close, not be able to get past the defending champion Manchester City, which I feel like to me is always the team to beat. And then you think about it, I was looking at it, according to my Premier League odds, they are still favorites and the team to beat, followed by Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Manchester United. So Manchester City is still on top, and they're still the favorites. And I think for me they'll have a 2 more years at least for them, for their manager and for their run. And after that, after that's passed, and I think 2 years down the road, I think maybe Arsenal and Liverpool. Well, I think Arsenal can finally break through Manchester United.
They're getting close, yeah.
Only until Manchester United just starts to rebuild, which won't be until 2 years from now. That's just how I view and see it.
Man City, you mean, yeah.
Yeah, right. So that's how I see it. So because I was listening to the two Robbie's podcasts before I started our show.
Great podcast.
And yes, absolutely. Make sure you listen to them while you can.
On Peacock,
if you're able, which is on YouTube. So might want to go check that out. So what they were saying is that one of them they were saying is one of them were saying was that Arsenal had high hopes, and for the second consecutive year they tried to get over the hump over Manchester City. They didn't, and Manchester City was still the champs, and they're the defending champs for the 5th consecutive year. They'll have a banner raising in front of their home crowd in their stadium, and it will be electric, and it will be Stamford Bridge has ever seen, probably ever in its existence. The fans will be into it. It'll be their best one yet. The crowd in Manchester City is going to be into it. Those fans will love it. They'll enjoy it, and they'll soak it all in. And yeah, and then as I mentioned earlier, the two Robbies were asking about dethroning Manchester City, which I feel like they will never be denied. And then he was saying and then he was saying that it's going to be Arsenal's year. Well, I disagree with him because Manchester City is still the team to beat. I think they'll have at least a few more years to win at least back-to-back titles. But after that, once their contracts for their players are up, as well as the manager, then I think past 2 years they'll have a rebuild, and then I think it'll be 2 years time. It'll be Arsenal's turn to win the Premier League title, and then I think in that year Liverpool will finish second, and that's just how I think my predictions will look like that I have for Jackson Murphy's prediction from Premier League, and that's how I see it for this season, for the 24-25 season, and that's who I got, and that's who I'm predicting, and that's my top Premier League predictions for this season.
Okay.
Yeah, so right. So Blake, do you agree with what I said? And is there anything that I should know about for the Premier League season? Obviously, we won't get into all the clubs breakdown that just got promoted, but
I'll break it down, man. I've got my full 20 to 1 predictions, how I think the table is going to look come the end of the season. I'll go quickly, don't worry. So I've got my full 20 to 1 predictions, 20 teams in the Premier League. And then I got a couple of superlatives awards at the end as well. So I'll go from bottom to top. So the bottom 3 teams, 17 or 18, 19, 20 rather, get relegated. So they go to the second tier, and then 3 teams come up. So I've got in 20th place, I think Southampton are going to finish last. They're one of the teams that got promoted from the second tier. I just don't think they have quite enough in their squad to do well this year, unless the transfer window is still open for another 2 weeks. So they could bring in a couple more bodies, but I just don't think they have enough quality. So I got them in last. In 19th, I've got Leicester City, also a team that was promoted from the second tier. I think they probably got a better chance. They've got a couple of veteran players on their teams, but I still think it won't quite be enough to stay up. So I've got them in 19th. 18th, I've got Nottingham Forest. They barely stayed up last year. They narrowly avoided relegation from the Premier League last year, and I think this year they're playing with fate a bit too much. So I've got them the last team to be relegated in 18th. 17th, I've got Brentford, who they've been in the Premier League now for a couple of years. Smaller team, small stadium. It's a good story. They really have a good model in terms of buying and selling players. But I just think they might get caught up a bit in the relegation zone this year. Maybe not replace some of the quality with fresh talent, a couple injuries and stuff. So I had them staying up, but just barely. Then in 16th, I've got newly promoted Ipswich, who it's a good story, actually. They got promoted from the third tier, League One, to the Championship, the second tier, and they got promoted from the second tier to the Premier League this year, the top flight. So 2 promotions in a row, which is pretty respectful, or pretty respectable rather, from Ipswich. So I think they're going to have a good home crowd advantage. That's the team that Ed Sheeran supports, by the way, for all you music fans out there. So expect to see him in the box this year down at Portman Road. But I think they're going to kind of be buoyed by their first season back in the Premier League for a long time. And so I think they're going to ride that momentum and just stay up. 15th, I've got Fulham. They're kind of always in that 11 to 15 range, sort of mid-table. I like the signing. They lost João Palhinha to Bayern Munich, so that would be a big loss, but they replaced they brought in Smith Rowe from Arsenal, good young attacker. So I think they have enough attacking quality to stay up. So 15th, Fulham. I've got Wolves in 14th. Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think I like the manager, Gary O'Neill. I think he does well with small amounts. And I think they've got some good attackers as well. They've lost a couple of players in defense, so I'm not sure about the defense as much, but I like their they've got quality going forward, so I have them staying up. 13th, I've got Everton. They brought in a couple of signings. Obviously they had a points deduction last year because of some financial issues. Hopefully they won't have any points deduction this year and have a clean season. But ultimately, I don't know about the strikers, Calvert-Lewin. their striker, has been pretty inconsistent the past couple of seasons. So I'm not quite sure where the goals are going to come from under Sean Dykes. They'll be solid. They won't concede much. So 13th for them. 12th, I've got Bournemouth. They just sold their star striker Solanke to Spurs for a lot of money. So, and then they just signed a replacement, I believe, from from Portuguese league, I believe. So he'll be a big one to replace for sure. Anytime you're sell your best goal scorer, but ultimately, I back the manager, Areola, Spanish manager. I think he's got a really good system there for Bournemouth, and they definitely punch above their weight. So I have them in 12th. 11th, I've got Crystal Palace. I like what Palace are doing. They've got good youngsters. I like their manager, Glasner. But I think they sold one of their best attackers from last season to Bayern Munich, Elise. I think he's going to be a big miss. I'm not necessarily sure they've replaced him as well as they would have liked to. So I think 11th is about fair, about mid-table there. In 10th place, going up to the top of the table, I've got Brighton. Brighton, known for their great recruitment. They like to bring in these young players. They find some diamonds in the rough, as they say. And I think that will continue. They've got a new young manager from Germany, I believe, this year. And they got a couple of new signings as well. So could be potential for them to go higher or lower than 10th, but I got them in 10th, just sort of bang in the middle there, just to kind of seems like a good prediction for Brighton. Kind of given they've been a good side for the past couple of years. So they're mid-table. And then this 9th through about 5th or 4th place was tough for me. There's a lot of teams that could have gone in here, but I've gone Chelsea in 9th, which might be a bit controversial for some people. But I'm just not really too sure about the strategy from Chelsea. They got purchased by the owner of the Dodgers, Todd Bowley, recently, and he's basically signed every single player that he can. He's made about 20, 30 signings, and he just seems to be stockpiling assets. But I'm just not really sure if that's the strategy that's gonna result in wins on the field. Signing as many players as possible, it sounds good on paper, but ultimately fitting them all into a team that wins is a different story. And they've obviously and they've got a new manager as well, Enzo Maresca. So bit of an unknown factor there. So I think it's going to be a bit of a rough season for Chelsea, and they're going to have some good players and they're going to score some goals, but I'm just not too sure about the cohesion of that full squad. So I got them in 9th. 8th, I've got West Ham. West Ham, I was tempted to put them higher, honestly, because I really like some of the signings they've made. They signed a good German striker, Füllkrug, who got some good minutes in the Euros for Germany. They signed Somerville, who was probably the best player in the second tier last year for Leeds, and a couple other players here and there. I think ultimately maybe the defense might let them down a little bit, but their attack and midfield, I think, looks really solid. New manager as well, Spanish guy Lopetegui. So I like West Ham. Don't like them enough to put them higher than 8th, so that's where I put them. 7th, I've got Manchester United. So maybe it's my bias against Man United and Chelsea. I'm not particularly fond of those two clubs, but I've got Man United in 7th. I think Ten Hag, they finished 7th or 8th last year, I think. So I pretty much have them the same spot. They've made some signings. They've gotten a couple of young players. They've already got injuries. They brought in a young center back, French player. He's already injured. Luke Shaw, their left backs, he's always injured, is already injured again. I just not too sure they have the quality going. I think it's gonna be a bit of a rebuilding year for Man United. I like some young players they brought in, but I don't like them enough to put them higher than the teams that I have above them. So in 6th place, I've got Aston Villa, who are in the Champions League this year. They finished 4th, so they're playing in Europe's biggest competition this year. So the reason I had them 6th is I like the squad. They made some good signings. They brought in Onana, midfielder from Everton, who I like. I just think them playing in the Champions League will distract them from their league form. So I think they'll not finish quite as high as 4th last year. I have them dropping down 2 spots into 6. Then 5th place, I have Tottenham Hotspur. Tempted to put them in 4th, but the team that I put 4th, I was kind of flip-flopping between 4th and 5th. I like the manager, Postecoglou, the Australian manager. They signed Solanke from Tottenham, I mentioned earlier. So it's going to be a big swing there. He's either going to be a big success or he might take time. Never really know with some of these strikers that have one good season and they go to a bigger club, it could be a bit of a question mark. But ultimately, I like the manager. I think their first 11 is good. They don't have too much depth, maybe apart from that. So it's just very dependent on injuries. I like Son, the striker from South Korea. He's always good for double figure goals. Madison, very creative from the midfield. So I'll back Spurs for 5th, and then in 4th, probably my biggest shout is I got Newcastle finishing 4th. The reason I had them finishing that high is they're not playing any European games, so their schedule is a bit more free this year. So they were hit with some tough injuries last year. Newcastle were, and so I think them not having as many games to play is going to benefit their squad. I like Alexander Isak, who I'll come to on one of my awards here in a second, but I think he's a really, really great striker. I think next year probably move to a big club. I think he's a Swedish striker. I'm a big fan of his. They got Anthony Gordon. They got some good players in midfield. They got Tonali coming back this year as well. So I'll back Spurs to just finish 4th. It's going to be tight. That 4th, 5th, and 6th place is going to be tight for sure. But I'm just backing Newcastle. 3rd, I got the team that I support. Obviously, you tell them my hat, Liverpool. I like the squad we have. We've made no signings, which is a bit of an issue, and brought in 0 new players, but we got the new manager, new system, new tactics. I think that will kind of refresh the squad a little bit. I'd still like to see 1 or 2 players come in here in the next couple of weeks, but I still think on paper we have one of the best squads definitely going forward in the league. So I've got us 3rd. 2nd, I wanted to put City 2nd, Jackson, but ultimately I put Arsenal 2nd and I put Man City 1st. I just think I like Arsenal. They've got a really good defense, probably one of the best center backs in the world, Saliba. They signed another Italian defender as well. I think their defending is going to be rock solid, but I think going forward, I still just have question marks about the striker position. I think Gabriel Jesus is a good player. He links up well. Kai Havertz, they've played in that striker position as well. I like him, but I don't know if they have enough goals in him, Arsenal. And I think I have Man City 1st, and I think it's because of Erling Haaland. And I think he's just a killer in front of goal, the big Norwegian. And so I think ultimately his conversion in front of goal is going to be what gives City the title. So I've got Haaland to win the Golden Boot. For my player of the year, I've gone for the striker Isak from Newcastle. I think they'll finish top 4, and he'll score a lot of goals and probably get a lot of assists as well. And so my overachievers, I've got Newcastle, and then underachievers, I've got Chelsea. I think are going to finish 9th. So those are kind of my some of my superlatives as well. So Jackson, that is my 20-1 Premier League predictions. You can come back to this video at the end of the year and hold me accountable, positive or negative, based off of those predictions. What do you think?
Well, I think you might be right, Blake. So
we'll see.
We can revisit that.
Time will tell, won't it?
Yes, we can see if we are right, which I think we are, but nobody really knows for sure. But only time will tell, like you said. And we can check back with you on May, and we'll see if the predictions we got were right with the odds makers, and see if we check back on late May to see if we got it right. Check back with you by then, and I'm sure we'll see how the season plays out and see how it goes for the new upcoming season.
Absolutely.
So right. So real quick before we get ourselves out of here, so I want to talk some baseball for a little bit. We don't have a lot of time, but what I do want to talk about for just a little bit for a few real quick few things is that the Little League World Series got underway, and what better way to catch a ball game and with your little kids watching from Williamsport, which is the happiest place on earth, they say. Pretty much for any kid's dream that they really want to play in. And to me, if you haven't been, that should be a place on your bucket list for your grandkids. That includes Uncle Mike's and Aunt Lori's grandkids. They would really enjoy it there, and the games are underway. And I saw some highlights of it, some great home runs and and some great catches and great plays. There's nothing quite like it. The atmosphere out there at Williamsport, it definitely has like a family fun feel atmosphere. It's really nothing quite like it. And there's also going to be there's also going to be a Little League Classic showdown. The Nationals, believe it or not, Mike, we're playing it. Played in this game last year against the Phillies. I remember watching it watching it last year on TV. This year it'll be the Yankees against the Tigers this Sunday from the great Williamsport Classic ballpark, which they do every year. But wish the Braves were playing in it, but that would just make our lives feel better if we were to attend that game. But it's so great to watch on TV. I think it'll be a must watch and fun event on TV for the whole family. Whether if you're at the ballpark or at home, something to worth check it out. And I would highly recommend that you watch it. Whether if you were at the ballpark or not.
Sounds good.
Definitely. We'll check it out, Jack.
You got it. So
Want to get us wrapped up here, and
also
we gotta run out of time, man.
Right. All right, Blake. Yep, we are. But before I do, one other thing I like to shout out, and before we have to go and get ourselves wrapped up, is that I will be attending surface healing, and I will surf for the charity in Wrightsville Beach this Monday. I'll be attending meetings on Sunday and meeting with all the different surfers and all the people who have
Jackson, I want to come. I want to come.
Do you
I want to be there.
Do you really want to come and cheer me on? I mean, look, you're more than welcome to, Blake, if you can make it.
Video.
Blake, you're more than welcome to come if
Jackson, do you remember that's where our original video came from?
Really?
What?
I don't remember that. Well, of course I do. I remember, Blake, because I was with you that one year at Folly Beach, and I remember it too well.
Yeah.
And
I want to be there. I'm gonna try to make it.
Well, please do. We would love to have you if you could if you can try to squeeze it in. If you can, I would definitely love for you to. We would love for you to cheer me on. That would just really make my day.
That's awesome, Jack.
Yeah, best of luck to all the surfers competing.
Oh yeah. Hang 10, Jack.
Well, I will certainly do my best, and I'll definitely try hard, and I know I'll do great.
Absolutely. But have fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mike.
That's
I will.
Key. That's the key.
Absolutely. I'll definitely enjoy for sure, and I'll definitely send you all some pictures. Tell you all about it on our next next week's show. But yes, I'll definitely enjoy for sure. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah. I'm very excited to be in it. It's really worth the wait. I can't wait to participate in it and going to be in it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. I'm excited. I can't wait.
All right.
All right. You want to get us out of here?
All right, Blake. Mike B.L. Weinberger. I'm sorry about your audio situation. But it was great hearing from you with your girlfriend who's a cheerleader. But it was great hearing from you, Blake. But I always love catching up with you.
I love watching his page.
P-A-G-E. Got it. You got it.
Yep.
All right.
All right, Jack.
All right, guys. Great talking to you. Sorry, we're a little late. We're a little late on the time, but great show. Great talking to you. See you guys next week on Good Guys Sports. Have a great night, everybody.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Jack. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you, Mike.
See you, Blake.
See ya.
Go
Bye.
Gunners. Go
Yes,
Gunners.
sir. Yes, sir.